Hi, my name is Moks-Unger. I'm the current Poet Laureate of Erie County, Pennsylvania. And this is Picture This, Residents Respond by Writing. It's a three-part series of workshops. The first that we're going to do today is Picture This, Residents Respond by Writing to Iconic Images of Erie County. A list of the titles of the poems and other resources that we used in class can be found at the end of this video. This project is funded by Erie Arts and Culture in coordination with the Erie County Poet Laureate Initiative. For this project, we're going to be creating material to create poems from. You're not going to be creating poems right now, you're going to be creating resources or information, just content as you're writing to have material to work from to create poems. We're going to be talking about a lot of different types of poems, including sonnets, haiku, villanelle, etc. And you're going to have a chance to experiment with those on your own. Furthermore, you're going to have a chance to work with experimental prose and prose poems. And prose poems are nothing more than a poem with compressed words that is in the shape of a paragraph or two paragraphs. So let's get started. The Picture This, Residents Respond to Iconic Art of Erie County. We're going to be looking at the process of react and respond for each time we write. Usually people respond and then they react, but what I'm asking you to do is to react and just write whatever comes to your mind when I'm asking you to comment or take a few minutes to write or jot your feelings down. I want you to react on page. I don't want you to think about anything about whether you should be writing it, shouldn't be writing it, censor yourself, look at anything that worries or concerns you. Just get down whatever pops into your mind and write as quickly as you can. The Beat poet Allen Ginsberg said, "First words, best words," and that's what I'm talking about when I say write as quickly as you can without censoring yourself. So the conventions do not apply. I used to be an English teacher, and I know most people get so freaked out and think about whether a word's spelled correctly, whether a word's used correctly, whether a word has the correct punctuation in a sentence. And well, those things are very important when you actually respond by writing a poem or a prose poem or an essay or whatever you choose to do with the content you work with here and create here. What you need to do is just let go of those conventions and just write. One other thing I would strongly suggest is if you're comfortable writing in cursive handwriting, write with a pen or a pencil, but a pen is preferred because it writes more smoothly, and paper. If you're very into electronics and you need to use a stylus, go ahead and use a stylus and still write in cursive if you can. If you need to print, then that's fine, but writing in cursive activates a part of your brain that allows you to tap into your creativity. Now when you look at this image, it's a warm-up. And it's a person sitting on a beach, and we have many beautiful days before the weather turns in Erie to do such things at Presque Isle and along the shore, and different beaches that we have here, different lakes like Edinburgh Lake. There's a lot of beautiful places like Frontier Park here in Erie where people just sit and watch running water or still water. When you're looking at this, I would like you to take about 5 minutes and write down what feelings, emotions, or images come up while you're looking at this image. Take some time to quietly settle in and then write. Fruits of labor. There's so many impressions that we have of labor in Erie County. 100 years ago, a journalist coined the phrase Gem City because of the beautiful light that shimmered off of our shores. And that image also was applied to the shimmering industry that was brought here to the Great Lakes region through the Port of Erie. We have nautical, we have industrial, we have all sorts of commerce that was coming in from a crossroads of culture that we have. Fruits of our labor has biblical overtones to it, just the term itself, fruits of our labor. What are the things that are created through your hard work? Whether it's an apple pie that's at home, maybe some people put their time and effort into creating a puzzle with their children, putting a puzzle together. Different labors that we do. Some of them are paid labor and some of them are domestic labor. But we all bear the richness of our area through the fruits of labor. What I'd like you to do is consider and take time now for about 10 minutes to write about the labor that, if you remember the image from the horse being drawn by the world. Erie is the horse, and if we are the horse, that is a metaphor for pulling the world forward. And what are some of the gifts that we, our area, give to the world? Look at this image here. There's a man standing, and he is in industrial clothing and everything. And Erie is known as the Gem City. 100 years ago, we were known for our commerce, for our industrial corridor that we had from the lakefront on through State and 12th Street and beyond, for all kinds of different manufacturing. I know my father worked at Teledyne Penn Union on 18th and Cherry, that my great-grandfather worked at Griswold Frying Pans, and many of my other friends have different family members that worked all throughout the region. What I'd like you to do is consider what your family background is, what industries your families came from, what shaped the way you think about industry today. And consider that and take about 10 minutes to write about that. There's a lot of pride that goes into the products that come from Erie. Some of them are still made today, and some of them are collectibles like Griswold Frying Pans. Take some time, about 10 minutes, and consider the past, your family, and the connections that you have to Erie industry. Now we talked about the fruits of labor that our parents and grandparents and maybe even great-grandparents provided to this region of Erie County, Pennsylvania. What you want to do now is consider looking at this piece of artwork. It was recently installed at 13th and Holland Streets in downtown Erie. It's called Fruits of Labor. That's the actual title of it. And it was created by artist Tom Ferraro and other artists and students that worked at Central Tech on this project. So it was created by many different hands, many different people. It shows a horse leading a world, and it is a stag moving the world forward. And when you think about Erie and the industrial heritage that we have, it is a very proud moment that we are still leading. What I'd like you to do now is to write about the work you do, whether it's a blue-collar job or a white-collar job. Maybe you're like my husband and you do both blue and white collar work during he's an entrepreneur, and so he does both. I'd like you to write about the type of work you do and also how the influence of your family has played on that work. Many people have moved away from doing industrial work and become white collar workers. How does that impact your work life? Do you wish you could still work more with your hands? So go ahead and take about 10 minutes and write a response to that. Don't give up the ship. Haven't you heard that before? You might have if you're from Erie County. Don't give up the ship. If you just get so frustrated, you want to just throw in the towel, you're done. You're done with whatever job you're working on. You're so frustrated. Maybe you want a raise and you haven't had a raise in a long time. Maybe people are just talking in negative ways all the time and they're pessimistic, and you too want to feel pessimistic. I tell you this, don't give up the ship. Okay, if you feel frustrated, take about 5 minutes, and even if you don't feel frustrated right now, maybe you can say, I feel great right now. Why should I be writing about this? If you feel in the past, if you have felt, and who hasn't, frustrated about something, go ahead and vent now on paper for about 5 minutes. On the side of a building right here in downtown near the Plymouth Tavern on 12th Street is a beautiful mural of the construction of the flagship Niagara. Now, if you look very closely at it, you will see that there are 3 different forms of support going on. So these laborers are not going to be giving up the ship anytime soon. Before you even consider the construction of what's going on, look at the back of the mural is USS Lawrence. And the Lawrence is keeping the waterways safe during the construction of the flagship Niagara. So there's your first example of a support. Secondly, each laborer is carrying materials to support other people working on the ship. So the laborers themselves are supporting each other. And then, more closely, if you look toward the ship, there are actual physical supports that are leaning onto the Niagara to keep it steady while it's being constructed. So I'd like to ask you right now, what kind of support do you need? What kind of support do you think others around you might need? And who has got your back like the USS Lawrence? Go ahead and take 10 minutes to write. Then if you take and consider this next photograph, don't give up the ship. We have so many opportunities right here to look at an extended metaphor of how we can help one another and total strangers here in Erie County, Pennsylvania. There was a recent series of articles by The Atlantic done about Erie and how we are so welcoming to the strangers and to the immigrant and to refugees here. We have a thriving population of people from all around the world that we can help each and every day. What are some of the ways that you can take time to help one another? I know, as for myself, my father, when he passed away 20 years ago, when it happened in the middle of the night. A friend of ours came immediately to our house so we both could leave and go to the hospital when we got the call. We got home, there was meals that had already been prepared, there was phone calls that were already taken care of, and that's what neighbors and friends do for one another in Erie County and throughout the rest of the United States as well. Take some time now, about 10 minutes, and write about the types of services that you can either provide for people or that you have received as a blessing from other people during hard times when people didn't give up the ship. What we do have here in Erie, Pennsylvania and in Erie County is a true love for food. We are at a crossroads of different cultures. We live between Buffalo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. We're halfway between Chicago and New York City, and that brings all kinds of wonderful, wonderful culinary delights to this area. When you look at this image here, it is Rubinsky that my husband made on his hot dog cart because it's one of his pastimes that he loves, working festivals and feeding people wonderful, yummy food. So what I'd like you to think about right now and just take a minute or two to jot down are what are some of the wonderful festivals or the memories that you have of attending festivals. Everything from the Troika Russian Festival, the Greek Festival, St. Pat's Irish Festival, and everything else in between. What are some of the memories that you have of the festivals or the favorite food that you have of Erie? This image here is of pour a kohler collar, and it is on the side of a barn on Westlake Road in Fairview Township, right past Savonia Road. And on that barn, which was repainted a few years ago, is an advertisement for an industry that doesn't exist anymore, a company in an industry that doesn't exist anymore, the Kohler Company. The Kohler Brewing Company was located on Upper State Street, and it had a tour that you go through the factory and go underneath in a tunnel underneath State Street, and there they would have meats and cheeses and breads, and you'd make your own sandwich and have a glass or two of whatever type of Kohler beer that they had provided that day. That's hospitality, Erie, Pennsylvania style, let me tell you. So when you look at this image, what I'd like you to do is to think about what kind of events or parties that you've been to, that you've celebrated, what food tours. One of my favorite tours is Palaco's during Easter. You can go and they give you free samples afterwards. It's wonderful. And you get to see how the chocolates are being made. So think about that. If you're not from this region, or if you've never been on a food tour, if you've never gone through festivals of any sort, think about the types of foods that you enjoy, that you would like to see on billboards around Erie, or that you'd enjoy tasting. The final image we have of this is pour a Kohler collar, and instead in metaphor. When you think of the different colors, it's the foam, it's the effervescence on the top of a beer when you pour it. What has the effervescence of your life been? Were you recently engaged? Did you get married and have special memories of that, as many people do? When you toast champagne instead of beer, or maybe you had beer at your wedding reception. But what are the effervescent times, a college degree, a new job, a new home? Think about those times and take about 10 minutes to write about that. Now we're going to talk about haiku, a very simple Japanese art form for writing poems. The steps to creating haiku. You're going to pick out one of the exercises that we've covered and circle all of the vivid words you wrote. Nouns and verbs to show a person, place, or thing, an action or movement. Pull out 5 of those words and write them on the top of a fresh piece of paper. See what relationship those words have to one another. Do they sound familiar when you say them aloud? Are there variations of the same word, such as heard or heard? You heard someone, or if you have a herd of cattle. Construct a haiku with 5 syllables on the first line, 7 syllables on the second line, and 5 syllables on the third line. Repeat this pattern to have either a standalone or a series of poems that build on one another. Then give this poem a title that adds to the meaning of this piece. Free verse poems are poems that do not have fixed or standard types of structure to them. So they're open verse or free verse. When you look at those poems, what you want to do when you start to write them is to invent your own rules. And most of the time, when you just look at the material that you created during this session or other sessions, you're going to just pull words out or very vivid images and start with those. I would also say that most people like to write really long poems. Use as few words as possible to get the most meaning out of every single word and the relationship it has with the words that are around it. To create a free verse poem, choose one of the reaction pieces you wrote in class. Circle all of the vivid words. Choose at least 10 of them. Look for patterns in those words, such as, do they have rhyme? Do any of them begin or end with the same letters to demonstrate alliteration? Do any of them sound like another word? Bird, word, tired, trance, hull, like a hall you walk down or to carry something a long way. It's heavy. Working with these images, begin a conversation with the image and ask, what are you trying to tell me? Write the response using some of the devices that you noted above, like rhyme, alliteration, or ononyms. Give the work a title that adds to the meaning of the poem. And I would also like to add that free verse poems, or any poems actually, other than sonnets, do not have to rhyme. This is the conclusion of part 1 to Picture This, Residents Respond by Writing. There are 2 other workshops that will be in this series. Part 2 will be on fine art. Part 3 will be on photography. I look forward to seeing you then.